That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, dear God. People, the everyday person. And even though they are good people, they can find themselves staring down the rabbit hole that feels like there is no way out. And why do I say this? Why do I mention this? Why do I bring back up that mortality that you have, or that everyday thing that many of us nowadays experience? Because somehow I'm gonna loop this back around to games. But why do I say that? Why do I mention this? Because there is a sort of game that doesn't exactly have a genre yet. We don't exactly fully have a name for it, but it is the type of games where you work for a corporation that pays you nothing, and to dive into extremely dangerous, horrible situations. And I wanted to discuss with you today about how those games kind of relate to reality and the extremely satirical nature of it all. And I think the best place to begin is listing those games. I mean, you have things like Deep Rock Galactic, TF2.
I got 100 Secret Saxes. We need to kick the shit out of Monster Yambo.
You also have games that are fan favorites right now, like Lethal Company. Why did I just go crazy looking in that direction? Hell, you could even say content warning. But there is a large similarity between all of these games and all of these things, which is, again, you work for a sort of business or a group or corporation that could care less about you, yet you do it anyways because you find it fun. But in a way, I feel it connects to the everyday man, the everyday person. It relates on a fact of working every day practically for something where no one cares about you. But I think we need to come up with a name for that specific genre. But I was curious about your guys' opinions on these games and exactly what makes you want to play them. After working a day or a hard shift and coming home, sitting down, and just finally getting that moment to unwind and just get a little bit of freedom for a bit, how come you choose a game where it's about doing practically what you were at work doing? I know why I play Deep Rock Galactic. Season 5 has been really good because I be rocking and stoning. And it's fun. But why do we come home and we decide to play the same thing? Because I think that there's a little man in you. That's right, a little guy. Let's call that little guy Bebo. And Bebo's a little anarchist. Just wants to burn everything down, right? Just wants to break the walls. But the thing is with all these games, even though you're under this corporate watch, even though you're under this high, almost dictatorship in a way, the little Beepo in you gets to go crazy. I mean, I'm gonna keep using Deep Rock as my favorite example here, but kicking barrels practically into a gravity well that they should not be in. Somewhere on the ship, I know there's a loot bug just hiding, waiting for its moment. And I think the games also bring something else out of us that is very, very nice. It brings a unity. And I think one of the main things that separates these games from a real life job or workplace in the way is the teamwork. Feels really good when it happens because you feel as if you're actually working towards a goal. It's not exactly that you're just working for the next paycheck. You're working for the next thing. And I know I could say, oh, the difference between this thing and reality is that it's video game. Yeah, of course, no shit. But what I'm trying to get across is the little things that actually do reflect us as real people. And I guess since I kind of have a more Warhammer thing going on with my channel of recent, it kind of reflects the empire of man in a weird way. Under this giant rule of this god emperor where everybody is just working to pretty much live and not live, but live, and they go about their daily miserable life practically doing the same thing, probably a factory person, and anyone who really speaks out too much, well, you become a servitor. So in a way, I think that kind of reflects it too. I mean, you could kind of use Darktide as an example, but you're more of like a prisoner being sent into battle. So I don't really think that fully applies to this scenario. And I think the biggest thing and the reason why they're so catchy is not just because they reflect that thing of reality, but because they get rid of the one thing I hate the most. The one thing that makes me feel like a fake human being, that makes me feel empty and soulless on the inside, like a husk walking around day to day. And that's called professionalism. Now, I'm not talking about the type of professionalism, hi, thank you, welcome. Oh, welcome to my shop. You know, that sort of thing. I'm talking about the professionalism where you literally are perceived to act as a robot, where you have to have that level of professionalism where if the customer comes up and says some nasty, gnarly stuff to you, you still have to sit there and be like, oh, yes, thank you. That sort of stuff is soulless, and it's an act. And I hate that act. I don't like that performance, because that's all it is. At the end of the day, it's a performance. And that's the deal with these games. Even though you're doing these things or stuff like that, there's no act. There's no performance. And I think that's one of the main reasons why people can sit down and enjoy these games and really unwind. I mean, it's entertainment. Of course, it allows you to unwind. If it didn't, then it's not doing its job. I was also curious if anybody, because I personally don't know, if anybody has a shortened name for these type of games, because they're all similar. It's pretty much its own genre now. I mean, yeah, we could list them as horror, comedy, whatever, but like, I feel like it's its own thing now, like how Souls-likes became really its own thing. I think this sort of genre is now its own thing. So I was curious if anybody had a shortened name for it or something like that, because I haven't seen one. So maybe it's time we make one. I don't know. I like hearing all of your guys' opinions on these sort of things and talking about them. Even though I don't like or put a little heart on any comment or anything like that, I definitely read all of them so far. It's just interesting to me. Even if you were come in and hate on me, I like to see it because it's just neat. I like it. It's just neat. I think calling them digital wage slave games is probably the closest I can get to describing what that genre is, but it also puts a little bit of a negative context on it, and I don't really like that. Because they're, at the end of the day, what's a game for if not fun? I think this is a topic that could run deep into the ideal of escapism. And what escapism is to a lot of people and why we pursue it so much, especially probably now more than ever. I mean, it's one of the main reasons why I started making videos here on YouTube. I mean, this is honestly my form of escapism, and these games become other people's form of escapism and things like that. So they're really, really important to many people and many others. I mean, why else would so many people be trying to save TF2 without that escapism? I really hope that doesn't age like fine milk. So the reason of why do we want to be digital wage slaves? Well, it's pretty simple. Escapism. Why else would you play any game if it wasn't for escapism? And I think they've become I think these games have become so popular because it is a reflection of our everyday, or the everyday person. And I think that's important. I think for us as a society, for us as a people, to have something that is of sarcastic or satirical nature, reflecting the reality of what is in front of us, is a very important thing. And I think it's healthy for us to have. I do. Because it allows you to take a seat back, look at the world, and just laugh at it. Art always reflects life in some way. It has to. Because where else do you get the information? What else are you reflecting? Unless you're on some hardcore stuff. Unless you're on some really gnarly stuff. I also forgot that this also relates to Helldivers. Like, you're working for this giant faction. I mean, it's technically like the government in a way, but you're doing it for liberty, I guess. And then and then you go in and you get eaten by big bugs. Now, I'm not great with words. I'm really just yapping, honestly, at the mic. But I know that there's a lot of people probably watching this, or a lot of people that can put it into better words than I can. I keep things very simple in these sort of scenarios. Topics like this that are a little bit heavier, of course, than my usual, where I rant about VTubers, I just find neat. And I kind of enjoy this process of being able to really sit down and think about a topic that does reflect our reality as a group. Unity, that's what's important. Unity. What I'm trying to ask is, you guys, why do you like being a digital wage slave? I'd love to know, and I want to know more. And I want to know about, tell me an experience that you had that made you fall in love with these sort of games and stuff. Those stories are always so cool and so unique, and I love hearing about stuff like that. But I don't know, it was just a topic that kind of came up in my head randomly at one point, and I was like, why do I enjoy these games so much too? So I'll just be saying again, I hope you all have a very good evening, and goodbye.